When you stop looking for her, the very first thing she feels is shock and confusion. It's not because she consciously expected you to be there forever, but because your presence had become part of her routine. The good morning texts, the casual check ins, the way you were always available whenever she needed an ego boost, all of that disappears in an instant. At first, she might brush it off, thinking you're just busy or distracted, but as the silence stretches on, a subtle unease starts creeping in. She begins to notice the void you've left, and that's when the confusion really sets in. See, people get used to being desired. When you consistently show someone attention, whether they appreciate it or not, they start to expect it as a given. So when you suddenly pull away, it disrupts that expectation and makes her question what changed. This confusion isn't just about you not calling or texting, it's about the sudden shift in the energy between you. She can sense that something is different, and it throws her off balance. It's almost like you flipped the script and now she doesn't know what role to play. In those moments of silence, she'll likely start running through scenarios in her mind. Did she do something wrong? Did you meet someone else? Are you just done with her? That overthinking is her ego trying to make sense of the loss of validation. And while she might never admit it out loud, that confusion starts to make her pay more attention to you than she did when you were constantly there. The beauty of this dynamic is that you're no longer pouring your energy into chasing her. You're showing without saying a word that you respect yourself enough to walk away from anything that doesn't serve you. That shift in energy is powerful because it forces her to realize that you're not dependent on her attention to feel good about yourself. In her mind, the man who was always available has now become unpredictable, and unpredictability creates intrigue. What you need to understand is that this confusion is a natural human reaction to loss, even if that loss is just the loss of attention. People crave what they no longer have, and your absence creates a space that she can't help but notice. The shock of you no longer being there forces her to see what life is like without the constant assurance of your interest. And often, that's the very moment when she starts to realize how much she took you for granted. This is why pulling back is so effective, not because you're playing games, but because you're reclaiming your power. You're silently communicating that your world doesn't revolve around her, and that energy shift is something she can feel even if you never say a word. Over time, that initial shock and confusion often turn into a desire to re engage, but by then, you're in control of the dynamic, not her. The silence you create speaks louder than anything you could ever say. It tells her that you're a man who values himself enough to walk away from anything that doesn't match his energy. And that, more than anything, plants the seed that makes her start to rethink everything. When you stop looking for her, the second thing she feels is a strange sense of curiosity that slowly turns into obsession. At first, she might shrug it off, convincing herself that you'll eventually come back around. But as time passes and you remain distant, her mind starts to work overtime trying to figure out what's going on. She begins to wonder why the man who once gave her so much attention has suddenly gone quiet, and that curiosity can be surprisingly powerful. Humans are naturally drawn to mystery, and by stepping back, you've unintentionally created an aura of mystery around yourself. This curiosity isn't just about missing your texts or calls, it's deeper than that. She starts to wonder what you're doing, who you're with, and why you're no longer giving her the same energy. The fact that you're no longer predictable makes you far more interesting than you ever were when you were always available. Instead of knowing she can get your attention whenever she wants, now she's left questioning whether she even has a place in your life anymore. All you have to wonder now is whether she even has a place in your life anymore. That shift makes her mind race. And it's in that racing that her attraction can grow without her even realizing it. People don't crave what's easily accessible, they crave what feels rare and valuable. By removing yourself from her orbit, you've stopped being the constant and you've started being the unknown. And the unknown always captures attention. She may not message you right away or admit to anyone that she's thinking about you, but deep down, she starts paying more attention to what you're doing, even if it's just quietly checking your social media or asking mutual friends about you. That quiet curiosity is her ego's way of trying to regain a sense of control, and the more she doesn't know, the more her curiosity grows. This is why men who understand their value never have to chase. When you step back, you create space for her to feel what it's like without you there, and that space triggers questions that she can't answer. Did you lose interest? Did you level up in your life? Have you found someone else? Those unanswered questions become little hooks in her mind that keep pulling her thoughts back to you. And the best part? You're not doing anything but focusing on your own life, your own goals, and your own happiness. It's important to remember that this isn't about manipulation, it's about self respect. You're not stepping back to play games. You're stepping back because you understand that chasing someone who isn't showing the same energy is a waste of your time and value. That quiet confidence is what fuels her curiosity even more, because confidence is magnetic. When she senses that you're living your life fully and that you're no longer orbiting around her, it makes her want to understand you in a way she never did before. The more she thinks about you, the more she realizes how much she underestimated the value of your presence. That's the power of curiosity. It turns the tables. Where she once felt in control of the dynamic, now she's the one questioning, wondering, and quietly seeking answers. And that shift in energy is exactly what makes her see you differently, not as someone desperate for her validation, but as someone whose attention is truly valuable. And that's when you've already won. Not because you chased her, but because you chose yourself first. When you stop looking for her, something powerful begins to shift inside her. She starts to feel an unexpected sting of rejection. At first, she might not admit it, even to herself. She might brush it off with thoughts like, oh, he's probably just busy, or I didn't like him that much anyway. But deep down, there's this uncomfortable realization that the attention she once took for granted is no longer there. And that absence doesn't just create silence, it creates a void that our ego can't ignore. Most women are used to being pursued, to having men constantly checking in, trying to get their attention and validating them without them having to lift a finger. When you pull back, you disrupt that pattern. Suddenly, the certainty she had about your interest is gone, and that loss of certainty feels like rejection. It doesn't matter how strong or independent she thinks she is, human nature craves validation. And when it's gone, it hurts. That little voice in the back of her mind starts to whisper, did I mess this up? Was I not enough? Has he moved on? Those questions start to chip away at the comfort she once felt in knowing you'd always be there. This feeling of rejection can lead her to re examine everything she thought she knew about you. She may begin to replay your interactions in her mind, trying to pinpoint the moment things changed. That analysis can quickly turn into self doubt. And while you might think she doesn't care or that she's already moved on, the truth is that quiet sting of being ignored or let go often lingers longer than anyone wants to admit. What's interesting is that this dynamic isn't about you trying to get even or punish her. It's simply a natural response to you prioritizing yourself instead of continuing to invest in someone who wasn't reciprocating your energy. That shift in behavior sends a clear message without you having to say a single word. You respect yourself enough to stop giving your time and effort to someone who isn't showing genuine interest. And that message is powerful because it forces her to see you differently. She might start questioning her own behavior. Was she too dismissive, too cold, too unavailable? And that's where regret can begin to grow. People rarely appreciate something they take for granted until it's gone. And when you stop looking for her, you give her the opportunity to feel the reality of your absence. That absence speaks louder than any text, call, or explanation ever could. And here's where the tables truly turn. Instead of you being the one chasing her for validation, now it's her ego chasing yours. She wants to know that she still matters to you, that she still has a place in your world. The irony is, by doing nothing, by simply focusing on your own life and no longer pouring your energy into her, you've flipped the script completely. This isn't about playing games or trying to manipulate her feelings. It's about standing in your value and recognizing that you deserve mutual effort and respect. The moment you stop seeking her approval, you reclaim your power, and that power is what she feels when that quiet sting of rejection sets in. It's a reminder to her that your presence in her life was never guaranteed, it was a privilege. And once she realizes that, her perspective on you changes, sometimes in ways even she didn't expect. When you stop looking for her, something subtle but powerful starts to happen, and she begins to feel a shift in control. For so long, she might have been used to holding the emotional upper hand, knowing that you were always there, waiting, hoping, maybe even chasing. That sense of power gave her comfort. It allowed her to dictate the pace of your connection, to decide when and how she wanted to engage with you. But when you step back, when you stop giving her your attention and energy, that balance changes. She no longer feels like she's the one calling the shots, and that shift can make her both curious and uneasy. At first, she may try to convince herself that it doesn't matter, that she doesn't even notice your absence. But over time, that space you've created becomes undeniable. She'll start to sense that the dynamic between you is no longer the same. Suddenly, it's you who seems unpredictable. Instead of her wondering how to handle your constant attention, she's now wondering why you're not giving it. This quiet change puts her in unfamiliar territory because for the first time, she isn't in control of the situation. This loss of control often sparks something deeper inside her. She may feel the urge to reach out, to test the waters, just to see if she still has that influence over you. And here's where your silence becomes so powerful. It forces her to confront the reality that you've reclaimed your power. You're no longer available on her terms, and that realization can be both humbling and attractive. So, what's important to understand is that this isn't about playing a game or trying to manipulate her. It's about valuing yourself enough to walk away from situations where your effort isn't being matched. That self respect changes the energy between you because it communicates that you're not desperate, that you don't need her to validate your worth. And women, even if they don't admit it, feel that difference. They're drawn to men who stand firm in their value because it signals strength, independence, and emotional stability. As she feels this shift, her perception of you starts to evolve. The man she once thought would always be there suddenly seems distant, focused on his own life, his own goals, and his own happiness. That's attractive in a way that words can't describe because it shows her that your world doesn't revolve around her. And that's a quality she can't help but respect. Over time, this dynamic often leads to a complete role reversal. The very woman who once kept you at arm's length may find herself wanting your attention again, seeking out the connection she once took for granted. She may start initiating conversations, liking your posts, or finding excuses to be around you, not because you begged for her attention, but because she feels the pull of your absence and the power of your newfound confidence. By stepping back and letting go, you've done something most men struggle with. You've stopped giving away your power. And in doing so, you've allowed her to feel what it's like not to have control over you anymore. That shift doesn't just change how she sees you, it changes how she feels about you. And that's the beauty of it. By focusing on yourself and refusing to chase, you naturally create the space for her to reassess your value, often making her realize what she didn't see before. When you stop looking for her, one of the most powerful things she feels is the undeniable presence of your growth. It's not just the absence of your calls or texts that she notices. It's the way you begin to shift your energy toward yourself, your purpose, and your life. She starts to see a version of you that is independent, focused, and unbothered. And that quiet transformation speaks volume. When a man stops chasing, he creates a natural space that allows him to evolve. And that growth is something women can't ignore. It's almost magnetic because it shows that you're no longer placing her at the center of your world, and that change forces her to see you in a new light. This kind of growth doesn't happen overnight, but the moment you take that step back, your mindset begins to shift. You start realizing that all the time and energy you were pouring into her, into trying to win her over or gain her attention, can be redirected into something far more valuable, yourself. That could mean focusing on your career, hitting the gym, building a side business, traveling, or simply rediscovering passions you may have neglected. And the beauty of that is that this growth isn't about her anymore. It's about you becoming the best version of yourself. And in doing so, you naturally raise your value in her eyes and in the eyes of everyone around you. From her perspective, this shift is both surprising and intriguing. She might have been used to the version of you who was always available, always willing to compromise, always putting her needs before your own. But now she sees a man who values his own time, his own peace, and his own ambitions. And that confidence is deeply attractive because it signals that you don't need her to complete you. You're already whole. This independence forces her to question her assumptions about you, and in many cases, it plants a seed of curiosity and regret that grows over time. What's even more interesting is how this growth naturally flips the dynamic between you. Where she once felt certain about your feelings and your availability, she now sees you as someone whose life is full, someone who has options, and someone who is no longer waiting around. That shift in perception often creates a powerful sense of intrigue because women are instinctively drawn to men who are moving forward, evolving, and commanding respect without having to ask for it. But the real power of this moment isn't in how she perceives you, it's in how you perceive yourself. When you stop looking for her and start investing in yourself, you begin to build an unshakable sense of confidence and self-worth. You stop needing her validation because you've found validation in your own progress, your own accomplishments, and your own sense of purpose. And that, more than anything, is what makes you truly magnetic. In time, this growth often brings you to a place where her attention, or lack thereof, no longer defines your happiness. You become so grounded in your own value that whether she notices or not becomes irrelevant. Ironically, it's at that exact point when you genuinely let go that she's most likely to take notice, to question her choices, and to feel the weight of what she may have lost. And that's the quiet power of choosing yourself. When you stop looking for her and start building a life that excites you, you not only regain control of your emotions, but you also become the kind of man that others, including her, can't help but admire and respect. When you stop looking for her, one of the most surprising things she feels is a deep and sometimes unsettling sense of uncertainty. For so long, she may have felt secure in the idea that you would always be there, the one who texted first, who initiated conversations, who made plans, who showed up no matter what. That consistency made her feel in control, even if she didn't consciously realize it. But when that stops, when you take a step back and redirect your energy elsewhere, it disrupts that comfort zone. Suddenly, she doesn't know where she stands with you anymore. And that uncertainty can be far more powerful than any words you could have said. This shift forces her to start questioning things. She wonders why you're not as available, why your name doesn't pop up on her phone like it used to, and why you seem so calm and unbothered. Even if she wasn't genuinely interested in you before, your sudden detachment makes her curious. She might scroll through your social media to see what you're doing, subtly bring your name up in conversations, or even test the waters with a casual text, just to gauge where your attention lies. This curiosity stems from the loss of control, and that alone can spark a wave of emotions she wasn't expecting to feel. The power in this lies in your silence and your ability to hold that space without caving in, because the moment you stop chasing, you demonstrate something most men don't: restraint. You show her that your world doesn't revolve around her anymore, that you're capable of walking away without bitterness, and that you value yourself enough to let go of someone who doesn't value you the same way. That kind of confidence is rare, and it naturally shifts the dynamic. She goes from feeling certain about her place in your life to feeling like she might have underestimated you, and that realization lingers. In many cases, this uncertainty starts to build into something deeper, the fear of being replaced. She begins to wonder if you've moved on, if there's someone else, or if you've simply realized your worth and raised your standards. This fear isn't always about love or attachment. Sometimes it's about ego, People don't like feeling that they've lost their influence over someone, and when you stop giving her that attention, she realizes that her power over you has faded. That sting of lost control can be enough to make her rethink her behavior, even if it's just to figure out how to regain your attention. But the key here is that your focus should never shift back to seeking her validation. The moment you make her uncertainty about winning her back, you lose the progress you've made. This phase is about maintaining your composure, continuing to grow, and letting her emotions be hers to navigate. Because at the end of the day, the goal isn't to manipulate her or play games. It's to stand firm in your self-respect and create a life so fulfilling that her attention becomes an afterthought. Ironically, it's in that space of genuine detachment, when you've truly stopped looking for her and stopped needing her acknowledgement, that she feels the strongest pull. Whether she acts on it or not, that uncertainty stays with her because deep down, she knows she's no longer the center of your universe. And that quiet realization, more than anything, is what makes her feel the weight of your absence in a way she never expected.